Hey there, Corwin Duncan with Sharper Mind Training, and today I'm going to talk about one of the most important issues, probably the biggest challenge in youth competition and youth fencing especially. Before I jump into it though, I'm going to say go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to check out this description of the video below to subscribe to my email list as well. All right, so what is this huge issue, this huge barrier in youth fencing that I see in youth competition in general? It's winning. See, when we have an external reason for doing something that we intrinsically enjoy, it actually gets in the way of how much we can enjoy it. Now, I'm going to get more into why this is an issue for winning in a little bit, but I'm going to jump back and talk for a couple minutes about a study that was done at Stanford, I believe in 1973. And the way that this study worked broadly was researchers observed children in a school setting and observed what of the available activities, I think it was a specific one they observed, how many of the kids during their free time, undirected time, chose to draw specifically, and how much time they spent doing that. Then they watched this for a little while, and then they introduced rewards. And then they started giving some kind of external reward to those kids who were drawing, or when they would draw. And in fact, I believe they set up a situation where they could bargain. They could say, hey, if you draw this, we'll give you a gold star, kind of a situation. And then, after a little, sure enough, these kids were eager to, very happy to draw. They're doing something they already like to do, and then they get a reward for it. And what happened was when they took away that external reward, those kids spent a lot less time drawing. Now, I just listened to an amazing podcast by Dr. Andrew Huberman. I love his podcast, the Huberman Lab podcast, where he talks about dopamine and the ways that we can use dopamine to our advantage, and dopamine pathways, the effects it has on the brain. It's a great episode. I highly recommend it. He discusses this study as well. And the way he puts it in terms of dopamine specifically, this reward and motivation related chemical in our brain, is that having these two things we like at the same time, both an activity we like and an external reward, means that we're getting extra dopamine. And then when you take away the external reward, we don't get as much dopamine, or these kids in this experiment did not get as much dopamine as they expected. And it's that difference between the expected amount of reward and the actual reward that creates this dissatisfaction. So it's kind of like, you might have heard the formula, happiness equals expectations minus reality. So if you have low expectations and something great happens, you feel great, you feel awesome. But if you have high expectations and something great happens, you're just like, yeah. And if you have high expectations and something very mediocre happens, that's extremely disappointing. So you might already see where I'm going with this in terms of youth fencing and winning. But I'm going to spell it out regardless. What I see happen, what I've heard from parents and kids time and time again, is this pattern of success at a very young age in fencing leads to an expectation to perform at that level consistently. If you win Y10s, you're expected to win Y12s as you get older. Then you're expected to win Y14s. And these athletes who had this deep joy and satisfaction just in fencing, just enjoying the sport, start to orient towards supposed to. I am supposed to win. I should be reaching a certain level of success. And that does a couple things, right? It puts a lot of pressure, which makes it very hard to fence. It makes it very hard to compete. And that's one of the things that I deal with really directly in mental skills training. But on a much broader scale, it also creates this, well, if I don't achieve this high level, It's not good enough. I failed. I'm doing something wrong. And I don't get that dopamine reward I was looking for. Now, another thing mentioned on this podcast I listened to is that we don't just get dopamine when we achieve a goal, when we achieve something we're trying to get to, but as we take steps that get us closer to that. So let's say you're trying to win a national competition. Every time you go to training, every time you go to practice, every time you take a lesson, you're thinking, all right, I'm getting closer to winning that competition. And each one of those practice sessions becomes rewarding, becomes exciting, becomes fun, something you want to do. But when you turn and you say, okay, I'm not going to win that competition anymore, I have a lot of pressure and stress around that, suddenly that process of training for it becomes a lot less motivating because you're not working towards a reward, you're not working towards something great is going to happen. You become a lot more concerned about what is the result I'm going to get. And so it's not just the competition that becomes less fun. It's the entire process of preparing for and training for that competition. So, what I'm getting at in all of this is, at every level, I think this is super important, but especially at the youth level, fencing is not in order to win. It's not about winning. It's not something you do to win. And if you want to win, or your child wants to win, that's fine. But just find something you can win. Don't use a sport, something that is intrinsically wonderful, as a way to get that desire met, right? Fence, just a fence. Fence in order to hit people. I think that's the fundamental essence of fencing in a way that nothing else is. So if you like doing that, great, do that. Go nuts, have a blast. But let winning go completely. So why am I so attached to this? Because I love fencing, and I love when people love fencing. And it can offer so many incredible benefits. It helped me learn how to focus, it helped me develop discipline, friendships, a lifelong pursuit, even this business. If I had quit after the first few years because I became dissatisfied, which is often what happens, people become dissatisfied with the sport, they don't achieve the results that they have become used to achieving, and that leads to not enjoying it anymore. If that had happened to me, I would have missed some really cool things in my life. So, I hate to see people quitting just out of frustration. And I want people to have the opportunity to continue to pursue fencing and continue to engage in this sport as long as they can enjoy it. And that's why I say, take the winning out of fencing. Yeah, go, win if you can, have fun, but don't make it about that. Make it about the fencing, about the process, about your integrity and your conduct. Let winning be a byproduct. All right, that was pretty much what I had to say about that. A little bit longer video than most. As you can see, I really care about this. So before I hop off, I am going to say go ahead, subscribe to my channel, take a look at another one of my videos, and thanks so much for watching.